This is an open letter to the Sane Society. Hope everyone is well. I have a postman, a very nice guy. He's from my old hometown of Pennsylvania. And although I wasn't born there, I just went to school there. But I have my longest attachment is to Pennsylvania. Anyway, the other day he asked me a question because I'm sure he has asked himself that question. And the question was, why do you think these rich people think they have the right to lecture us, to try to guide us, through media and manipulate us and, become leaders or become kingmakers? Why do you think these rich people see think they have the right to lecture the rest of us and try to guide us? And well, I give a short answer there, and because time is limited. But the short answer was obviously because if you have many people kiss your ass during daily life, all day, every day, all day, every day, mm, you have no choice but to, become a little full of yourself, to think of yourself as a Jesus kind of figure. But remember, Jesus kind of figures, Jesus died with 12 followers. So Jesus later on became a legend, but he died with supposedly with 12 followers. So rich people are literally the opposite of Jesus, because rich people have many followers. Why? Because rich people's ass being kissed all day long. One of the main qualities of Jesus was that he was detested during his lifetime. He was detested by the supermajority. So, you know, but that's exactly the opposite of rich people. That's exactly the opposite of people who say you know, they're preaching for Jesus. Imagine Joel Osteen with all his followers and all his rich followers and his richness and all of that all together. Imagine, compare him with Jesus. The guy who says, I'm the follower of Jesus, is in the lap of luxury with so many followers kissing his ass. And Jesus was the guy who actually, was Jesus, had only 12 followers. So what I'm trying to say is, sane messages don't sell well. Insane messages sell very well, as you can see. But sane messengers are die in poverty or go on the cross, because sane messages don't have buyers, because the populace is not very smart. It can be manipulated again easily. Why? Because the populace has to kiss somebody's ass all day long. Whoever is signing the fucking paycheck gets his ass kicked daily, ass kissed daily. So of course he's going to, and also because he's rich, he can execute. First, he believes he's the Messiah because so many people are kissing his ass and telling him he's the Messiah. You see? And second, he has the money to, execute what he believes to be the right way. the right message because he has the money to reach all those followers. So, literally, the money factor is the problem. Here is how it works out. The thing is, all of us, large majority of us, grow up with Nemesis, with difficulty, with a lot of opposition. We grow up with a lot of, baggage. Once we are adult, we have a lot of baggage. But the only people who can really go after those who they recognize as their nemesis, their opposition, their torturers, are the rich people. Only the rich people who actually can go through their childhood baggages and try to correct a wrong that they feel they have been done. Now, what they believe has been done, was it actually wrong? Was it to correct the wrong? Whatever it was, that really doesn't matter. You see, imagine that this is why. George Soros, supposedly an activist billionaire on the left, George Soros, and Elon Musk, an activist billionaire on the right, or you can say Elon Musk and Mark Cuban, or whoever. They're all are going after their childhood nemesis. I think the right word is nemesis. If I'm wrong, forgive me. Adversaries, their childhood adversaries. And we all have that dream. We all like to go after our childhood adversaries. If I can go after my second grade teacher, I really like to prosecute her for my treatment. But so we all have these torturers, these adversaries. Elon Musk, famously talked about, he's been beaten to an inch of his life in South Africa, probably by black classmate. Him being a smart ass little kid with a smart mouth, and the black kid feeling violated in South Africa, just violated because the ruling class of the only African, by the 80s, the ruling class, South Africa was the only country in Africa which even the ruling class was not even of the same race. That the ruling class, we all have a ruling class, but most tribes prefer their ruling class to be at least of the same race as them. If they're not of the same, economic class or social class, at least be the same race. This is, and that's the main problem that's came up with regards to Obama and Harris, because the majority doesn't want to be ruled by somebody who's not even of the same fucking race. Are you fucking kidding me? So imagine how South Africans felt that, they were born here. As far as the history can tell, they've been living there for thousands of years, and suddenly they're being rounded up like the Palestinians, living there hundreds of generations, and suddenly being rounded up and excused from the land. Salute. And the ruling class is not even of the same race. Same thing with South Africa, the same thing with Palestine. The ruling class wants to be of a different race. A different race has decided to be the ruling class of the land, and the natives have to be squished into reservations, townships, refugee camps. And on the other hand, you see George Soros, he has had nemesis. He has had adversaries in childhood adversaries. He has a lot of baggage. Obviously, he's survivor of the camps in Germany. So, as I understand it, maybe I'm wrong. So, of course, he has baggages, childhood baggage. Are you kidding me? So, of course, he's going to be not very happy. And because he's rich, unlike the rest of us, because he's rich, he has the opportunity to go after those childhood adversaries and try to right a wrong. They're both wrong. Both Elon Musk and George Soros and Mark Cuban and this Cuban and that Cuban and the Mr. Right and Mr. Clean and Mr. This and Mr. That, they're all wrong. We all have nemesis. We all have childhood adversaries. We all have torturers. You know, as I remember, my second grade teacher qualifies as one. But if she's alive, but the thing is that very few of us get to actually go try to right a wrong because we are not in the financial position to do so. Now imagine these rich people whose ass is being kissed all day long. Now these people have access to a lot of money. They have no choice but to see themselves as a messiah. Elon Musk sees himself as a messiah because they keep telling him all day long that he's right and he's the. Here's the thing, rich people, this is for you folks. You're not Jesus Christ. You found a way. For example, in case of Elon Musk, he found a way to speak to a computer. That's what a computer programmer is. You know, somebody who learns the language of the computer and is able to speak to the computer. Therefore, willing to tell the computer, type a code, and tell the computer what actions to take. End of story. That's a programmer. So at the whole entrance of a person into millionairehood, billionairehood, into becoming rich, it has a very humble beginning. Imagine the guy who read a few books and came up with the idea of Damascus steel. That's the Elon Musk of his time, the guy who invented Damascus steel. I'm assuming it's from Damascus. Anyway, he probably read something, was told something, information handed down generation after generation, that how to, make the steel more durable, harder, blah, blah, blah. Here, you forge it 50 times and there is your harder steel, or however it is done. I'm not an expert. But the thing is, so you can't say, so that the guy, the inventor of Damascus steel, in his lifetime, he becomes very rich and popular, and because he employs so many people every day, all day long, his ass is being kissed, and everybody tells them how great they are, how right they are. And they believe it. They're doing a lot of good for their tribe. And then they have some childhood nemesis, and they go after it. They see themselves as, this messiah figure that I have to, do it because it's the right thing to do. Salute. So you name all of them: Rupert Murdoch, George Soros, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Cuban. These guys are all Jack Ma. If there was, there are a few handful of Jack Ma's who reach that point in capitalism that they have so much money and so many people are kissing their ass all day long that they actually think that whatever comes to their mind is brilliant. And to their mind, they come with a lot of packages from their childhood. And in their mind, they have some adversaries that, because now that they're both Christ and billionaires, they have the opportunity and the means to go after those adversaries, to right a wrong. Now, whether those adversaries were, just what you expect kind of adversaries, like the black people in South Africa beating Elon, or white people. Maybe the guy who beat Elon Musk to the inch of his life was a white guy, but white boy. But the point is, he was living in a very frustrated society, in a very violent society. That white boy and all other white boys in South Africa were also part of that very violent society. You can't confine violence. You can't. In a society, when violence happens, the society is disturbed. Other people become violent. That's why this artificial violence that is Hollywood shows everybody is so bad, because it just images of violence creates a violent population. Even if they're just images, it's wrong. Period. Images of violence bring about a violent society, because it's just a space. It's your mind is filled with things that up to yesterday were not normal, but today is, you feel that, yeah, that's, I've seen it in a movie, that has happened before. So becomes violence becomes normalized. Go and watch Pulp Fiction again and tell me that, you know a very violent movie, tell me that after that you don't feel a lot of things are possible that you weren't thinking was possible before watching fucking Pulp Fiction. You've seen it, so you think that, yeah, that's possible. Rambo going and saving the whole fucking country, that's possible. And every time the white guys are the good guys, yeah, that's also possible, because in the movies, on the screen, every time the white guys are the good guys. What do you want? Remember, the guy who protested his Oscar by sending a Native American on the stage to accept the Oscar, and in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s, at that point, start telling the white people that, please calm down. You keep portraying us, the natives, as violent savages. In the 70s, in 60s, in 70s, in 80s, that was the time when, you know, one of these actors still, has had enough and thought maybe do something about it. That, Godfather guy, I think it was. But my point is this, that Jesus had very few disciples. Good messages usually have very few disciples, because the common man is not really, on the side of modesty and civility. The common man is, we are all related to the monkeys, right? We are, I, I, the less trained we are, the less civilized we are. Imagine that the tribes in the middle of, you know, Brazilian jungle, or tribes in that island in India that hasn't been touched. They're more violent than the guy walking down in New York City, because, it's a primitive thing for us to be violent towards anybody we don't recognize and we see as a threat, which almost is everything we see as a threat, because, it's a survival mechanism. It's a threat until it's proven it's not a threat. So my point is this: I think the Jack Ma treatment is the treatment that all these billionaires have to get. Is that you don't get to determine the direction of geopolitics because you did, came up with the idea of a Damascus steel, or you wrote a few lines of code. Now suddenly and a lot of people, you employ a lot of people, so a lot of people kiss your ass all day long, and you only surround yourself with people, you don't, nobody surrounds themselves with people that don't respect them. People love, surround themselves because that's how, reality works. You surround yourself, if you are on a mission to do something, you surround with yourself with people who, you know are on board, maybe much more on board than you, are willing to kiss your ass much more than everybody else. There are a lot of people around Hitler are known to be uh, much more vicious than Hitler, more determined than Hitler. And that's true with Bush. Dick Cheney was much more vicious than Bush, much more determined than Bush. You see what I'm saying? So, a powerful man is who has got the power because he came up with the line of code, the right line of code, with determination, of course. Jeff Bezos, without determination, wouldn't be Jeff Bezos. But the thing is, he's got the Damascus steel. He's not some brilliant geopolitical guy, or Elon Musk or Mark Cuban. They're not some brilliant philosophers. They like came up with a line of fucking code, or the right guy at the right time with the right mental skills to make money, to manipulate other people to give them money, to manipulate the system to give them money. They're not. They have their childhood torturers. They have their childhood nemesis. They have their childhood baggage. Now they're adults with a lot of money, a lot of means of going after those childhood adversaries, and with a lot of baggage, and with a lot of people who keep telling them that you're right. Of course, sir, you're right. You signed my paycheck. Of course, if you weren't right, I wouldn't be here. So I think Jack Ma treatment is the right treatment. I think the Chinese setup of uh, governance is the right setup. Frankly, I never lived in China, but theoretically, looking at it from outside, forgive me, theoretically, looking at it from the outside, not experiencing it, looking at it from outside, from the information that I see, I get, I read, it seems the Chinese have got it right. There are a group of well-meaning intellectuals who have dealt with their demons, who are level-headed, who are calm, that are put in a position to govern the society, their board of directors. And they are under the watchful eyes of each other and the system to make sane decisions. And because there's a group of them who have to agree, and understanding that people rarely share the same adversaries. Rarely, people of the same tribe share the same adversary. Black people in South Africa, or Africa in general, have the same adversaries. The Europeans who went and exploited them. So they can get together. You see what I'm saying? But in general, if you have, instead of one leader, as it's this individual system that the West has, that the individual is everything. No, individual is usually trouble, because individual has its shortcoming. Every individual has their baggage. And what happens if you have to make decision as a group, you stop overlooking shit, to instead, because if you're alone, you go directly after your nemesis. You start overlooking shit, not be modest and civil and blah blah blah. That's why many people are known that they function better in a marriage than single, because it's between many people that they say, marriage sort of rounds people up, uh, grounds people. What does that mean? That means your baggage, she will not have your baggage, so she will trim your rough edges when you are determined to go after something or someone because you feel they're your adversaries. A woman, or the partner, or a man, that partner would, woman having a man as a partner and a man having a woman as a partner, the partner doesn't share that same baggage. So they tend to calm the other guy down and the other person, the other partner down and say, hey, uh, you're being too aggressive towards some figment of your imagination, which, maybe it's real or maybe it's totally fictitious, but then calm people down and, round the rough edges. They say what is the one of the benefits of marriage. But then again, you see a lot of these, messiah like billionaires who see themselves as messiah, and so many of their employees, all of their employees and so many other people see them as messiahs. uh, you know Starts, most of them get divorced first thing off the bat. They get divorced because, their partner tries to calm them down and round them up and try to encourage them that, your enemies are not really your enemies. Those are your baggages from your childhood, blah blah blah. And then you see Rupert Murdoch, who has been married and divorced 15 times now. You see George Soros is single or got divorced like 50 times now. Again, you see the rich people, famous people, rich people who have been worshipped as gods by many of all of their employees and some other extra people outside of their employment, because we are herd like animals. Human beings are not really, you like to say we're individual, but we are not. We are herd. We're very much herd like. You just go to any stadium and see, the people involved, and the people, we are very much herds of. We are not individuals that as much as you think you are individuals. So my point is this: they tell Jack Ma that yes, we understand that you have some childhood nemesis and adversaries, and uh, but you know you're obviously not qualified to determine what's in the benefit of this tribe, because you're a software programmer. That's who you are. You're an engineer. I'm not sure you can call programmers engineers. I'm not sure what I'm sure. They're more linguists. Programmers, software engineers are, they shouldn't call them engineers. They're linguists. They have learned to talk to the machine. That's it. They're linguists, not mathematicians, and they're not engineers, and they're linguists. So they learned a few. They know a few languages. They know the alphabet of a bunch of languages. Those are software programs, and then many of them become very rich. I'm sure if Elon Musk wants to learn a few languages, he can easily learn a few languages, because human languages, are very similar to machine language. So my point is this: that doesn't make a sane person with a sane geopolitical ideas. No, not George Soros, not Mark Cuban, not Jeff Bezos, not Elon Musk, not none of these folks make a very intelligent geopoliticians. And the problem is in your system of capitalism and elected governance, these rich peoples who have a lot of baggages and are not really sane geopolitical brains, Many of them have just been recently have been linguists. You know, in the time of Damascus Steel, those brains were blacksmiths, and in the time of, you know, software programming, you know, these guys who are linguists, not blacksmiths but linguists, become worshipped and become the people who actually help elect those elected people in office, you know, invest in their careers. But many of those people who are going into these offices are, you know, these rich people have okayed them. The rich people are not sane. They just learn to write a piece of code. They're not really sane. They don't know much about geopolitics. And, you know, people who don't know about, don't care to know much about geopolitics, have a lot of baggages, as we all do. These people help elect politicians who are have obviously share the same baggage. You know, if you have an adversaries, you like the politician who has the same adversaries, correct? Who are these adversaries? These adversaries go back to your childhood most of the time. These are childhood baggages that these people carry around, and they help elect the politicians who carry the same baggage, who consider the same people as enemies and the same people as friends. And then you want a sane outcome out of this political soup of politicians and moneyed individuals? Are you kidding me? You want something good coming out of this fucking soup? Rich people who have some baggages, as we all do, but putting their money where their mouth is to go correct the old wrongs and donating money, helping elect politicians who share the same baggages, the same figments of their imagination. Not figments, real adversaries in their childhood. But are they real? Would you, you know, would you protest if you're treated as a South African, black South African was, and still in many cases is, being treated in South Africa by settlers from Europe? Can you blame them if they fight back? Or the Palestinians fighting from Asia, fighting these people who just landed from Europe? Can you give them, can you, you know, now if your nemesis, if your adversaries are people who actually are right, they were born on that land, and they are being treated very in an unkind manner by people who just arrived. Forget about all the race and the religion and all of that. People who are there are being mistreated by the people who just landed. I'm not even doing religion or race. Are you happy, Mr. Musk? People who have been living there are being mistreated by people who just landed. And we know they just landed because their skin is white. And the skin of the local, in case of South Africa, was dark brown, and in case of West Asia is light brown. But it's distinctly different from the complexion and the religion of the people who just landed. Somehow you think that the natives should be very welcoming, that the people who just landed become their overlord overnight. You think the people who've been living there for multiple generations should be okay, not fight back, and not, you know, not beat Elon Musk to an inch of his life. They shouldn't do that. They should accept that the guys who just landed should be the upper class or the ruling class of the people who are been here for a couple of thousand years at least. It's nonsense. And then this thing causes Mr. Elon Musk to hold a grudge that why those motherfuckers don't want to accept us as the ruling class. They're monkeys. They don't understand anything. We are the smart ones. They should accept us as ruling class. Would a black baboon allow a brown baboon to become the ruling class of the baboon clan? Forget about humans. Doesn't matter how big the gorilla is, a pack of chimps will not accept the gorilla as their leader. Are we? Is that clear enough? Doesn't matter how big the gorilla is or how smart the gorilla is. Doesn't matter how smart the chimp is. The chimp cannot be the leading ruling class of gorillas. Gorillas, I mean, chimps are known to be much smarter than the gorillas. But can you imagine a gorilla, a clan of gorillas, accepting a chimp as their dominant figure, as it's their ruling class? Are you fucking kidding me? And now you hold a grudge against those black South Africans who drove you away. Excuse me. This person has hold a grudge against people who were trying to just and unjust, and he's holding a grudge of why these motherfuckers thought it was unjust for us to rule them. We were much smarter. A fox may be much smarter than a wolf, but the fox is never going to become part of the ruling class of the wolf society. Wolf pack. My point is this, that I think the Chinese model is a model the West should replicate. This is not about ideologies, this is about what works. And from the outside and more or less from the inside, we see the Chinese model working. Economy is capitalism, but when it comes to, the ruling class, it's a bunch of well-meaning intellectuals. I'm thinking, put a bunch of intellectuals in charge of, let's just imaginary, let's is do a thought exercise. Imagine a well-meaning group of older intellectuals that are known to be able to put a few sentences together and form a thought and convince other people of the benefits of those thoughts. Not Dick Cheney kind of like figure who has learned how to pull which ropes to make the right sounds in the church organ. That's apparently who Dick Cheney was, who was very good at bureaucracy. Or the clueless George W. Bush, who was, usually clueless. Didn't care to care most of the time, most of his life. So instead of having these people in command, sending these guys in command, or the people who are, came after them or before them. This is not a sane situation. This model, and this is not ideological, this model in which some bureaucrats and some one or two, maybe it's the vice president has some say, maybe the vice president doesn't have any say. So there's only one executive power. One. With all the one's flaws and with one's baggages and with only one's shortcomings, childhood nemesis, childhood torturers, biases, prejudices. With all of this baggage, everyone has all of this baggage. If they're married, they will be a little blunted, but if they're single, even worse. And a lot of these guys who get married and divorced 50 times and their recent wife is like half their age, they're not really rounded either, because the wife doesn't get to have a say. You think Rupert Murdoch, that's why Rupert Murdoch keeps getting divorced and married, because Rupert Murdoch is looking for somebody who will kiss his ass all the time, 24/7, every time. He's not looking for opposition. He's not looking for anybody who will round him up. And all these women keep marrying him for the money, and they think they can round him up. As soon as they try to round him up, Rupert Murdoch gets a divorce. So my point is this, that most of these people are single, recently single, or single for a long time. Nobody there to round them up, or if it is one there, they keep changing them until they find somebody who doesn't try to round them up, round their sharp edges, try to moderate their views towards their childhood nemesis, childhood adversaries, to make them a little less hyper towards their goals, towards righting a wrong. That's what I couldn't figure out, why Elon Musk is so pro-Israel, because he sees himself in Israel. That's why, North America is so pro-Israel, because they see themselves in Israel. They see even the Redskins, as they still see the Redskins in North America as savages who were trying to prevent them from taking over the land, to becoming the overlords. And can you blame the Redskins? They were living at least the ruling class were Redskins of the same race at least. And then the white people from Europe had said, no, you're mistaking. Your ruling class is not, from now on, is us. Because, we can think faster, we have better technology, we have thought things through more, we can plan better, we can execute better. So there you are. We are going to be your ruling class from tomorrow. That's, North Americans, or general, North and South Americans, Europeans took over the whole thing. They come in and they say, no, to tell the natives that, no, from now on, because you're slower, from now on, I'm the boss. The chimp going telling the gorillas, the clan of gorillas, that I'm smarter than you guys. From now on, you take orders from me. That's the case of South Africa. And this white child of South Africa, Mr. Elon Musk, of course he has a lot of baggage. Never heard him say a nice word about South Africa. He doesn't. He only has bad, sad memories from South Africa. His time there. I'm sorry, it was the wrong decisions of your ancestors who moved to South Africa. For what purpose? Money? You went there, your ancestors went to South Africa for money, better life, because their own race in Europe, all the land was owned private, and it was so expensive that your ancestor, Mr. Elon Musk, was not able to buy a piece of land in Europe, either prohibited by law or prohibited by economics. As a peasant, he was not able to buy a piece of land in Europe. So what you do, because you're being mistreated by your own race in Europe, your ancestor packed up and went to some other race's land and said, no, I can't have land in Europe, I'm going to grab your land. Move over. That's to the black people, to the brown people. Now they're doing it in West Asia. Jews are known for not being allowed to own land in Europe, are known for that. Now they're going to Asia and they're telling the natives that this land is from now on. I can't own any land in Europe, but I can own your land. Move over. Are you fucking kidding me? And Mr. Elon Musk sympathizes with Israel, and you're like, really? You That's a childhood baggage speaking. That's a childhood baggage speaking, saying that yes, those Europeans should kick the ass of the natives from there to Timbuktu. Salute. This is why how the Chinese dealt with Jack Ma was the right way to go. That's what the Sane Society does. Ask Mr. Mao, Jack Ma. They asked Mr. Jack Ma to take a time out. They took him somewhere, sat them down, and said, "Hey, motherfucker, you're a linguist and a financier. You were able to put money together, bring capital together, and a linguist. You spoke computer language very well. But that's all you are. You're not some great geopolitical figure. You can't, start printing your own money. You cannot be the central bank or something like J.P. Morgan Chase. You can't be BlackRock. You can't be James. We don't need a BlackRock. We don't need a J.P. Morgan Chase. We don't need Goldman Sachs here in China. We don't want our own Goldman Sachs in China. You're a motherfucker linguist who learned a computer language. Shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down. You don't determine the geopolitical way that this great nation of ours in China is going to take. You're one person. You have a lot of shortcomings because as we all have a lot of shortcomings because we all have childhood baggages or adulthood baggages or any baggage. And you couldn't even have a marriage going on because every time your spouse tried to correct your sharp ends, you divorced the spouse or you kicked out the girlfriend or the boyfriend. So you're a very sharp figure with a lot of wealth who has a lot of childhood baggages, which who doesn't even have a partner to round their figure, round the sharp edges. The result is that you have billionaire financier who finances the election of a politician who share the same baggage, sort of like Jack Ma starting to finance elections, something like elections in China to favor anybody who has the same baggage as he has. Let's say Jack Ma was fucked up the ass by an Indian when he was a child. Now he has a grudge against Indians. So now Jack Ma pays money to a politician who hates Indians, who wants to go to war with India. You see how bad this thing is going to pan out if you allow a rich person to determine the direction of the whole fucking society through financing elections. We all have our childhood nemesis. We all want to go right or wrong. Few get to do it, and then the whole society takes a bad turn. Few rich people get to go after their childhood nemesis, and the whole society takes the shit. You can follow this line of thought in World War One, how what it became World War One, World War Two. It's well known Napoleon Bonaparte, whether he was short or he was known, he thought to be short, still everybody understood that Napoleon had a chip on his shoulder. Childhood nemesis, adversaries that he had bad memories, real or fictitious or imaginary memories of those adversaries. And what? All his ruling time, he was fighting one war after another. No, I think the Chinese model is much better. I'm not, forget about bite my tongue that I said China. A model in which a group of intellectuals sit in the executive seat who are real intellectuals. By their peers, they're considered as intellectuals. And then this group has to agree on the direction for the society. Under such circumstances, when everybody is like that, you won't have a nuclear war. The intellectuals from China meet the intellectuals from America, meet the intellectuals from Russia, and they all, you know, there are 50 people around the fucking table. You can't have a nuclear war with 50 when 50 people, have a dinner together. You see where I'm going with this? When 50 people have dinner together from China, United States, Russia, and a few others, not the British, not the Japanese. I'm sorry. Good, you folks have a problem with your geography. The Japanese and the British. You gotta watch out for these folks. But the rest can have groups of people in their executive positions, and they sit together and they have dinner on routine basis once a month. In that case, how can it end in nuclear war? I mean, just saw Luca Brasi. I'm sorry, did I say Luca Brasi? I meant Mr. Netanyahu. Just saw Mr. Netanyahu going to the UN General Assembly to speak. When he stood up to speak, like 80% at least of the population of the assembly got up and left their seat. Apparently he didn't get the message. So after the speech, he goes and orders another kill on their neighbors to the north, another group of brown natives. And nothing. And you're thinking to yourself, so you didn't get the message that 80% of the representatives of the peoples on this planet are not happy with you, and you insist on doing worst of it, doing more of it. This is when I say childhood nemesis. This is when I say that he has a childhood adversary in his imagination. Maybe that childhood adversary was drawn for him through stories and through books and through Torah and through Morah and through Korah. Maybe that even that childhood nemesis is an imaginary one, but still it's there. He read it in a story, in a fictitious book, maybe a real book, doesn't matter. He has a mental image that who's bad and who's good. Now 80% of the population of the planet is telling him that, dude, calm down, that mental adversary that you have is not really real. But because a lot of rich people are backing him, Mr. Rich people, rich nations are backing Mr. Netanyahu, he has the opportunity to go after his childhood adversaries. You know, nobody wakes up in the morning with a new adversary. I don't wake up in the morning and, we don't just walk down the street and start hating on somebody. You just don't do that. You need a history, or at least you need to read somewhere that who's the adversary. Either a real history or a read history or read to history in order to recognize the adversary. As a child, as a grown up, that's the whole problem with the media now. The media had total control in defining who's the adversary and who's the friend. Now with the social media, everybody got their own baggage. Everybody has got their own adversaries. So now everybody, the population of the planet, is meeting on social media, and they're finding out that, oh, you don't share my adversary, you don't share my baggage. So no, Mr. Elon Musk, we don't share your baggage. I don't share your baggage, and you don't share my baggage. And the sooner we recognize that the baggage is, a lot of it was self-fulfilling prophecy, a chimp family going to a gorilla clan and telling them that from then on, the gorillas should accept the chimps as the ruling class, which was in your case in South Africa. Therefore, the children of these chimps, you think the children of these chimps are going to be treated well by the children of those gorillas who are now second-class citizens? Or even the children of these chimps, you think they're not going to become violent towards each other? They're always under pressure. Israeli society is a very violent society. Israeli society, I can assure you, is a very violent society, even with themselves. I saw a couple of videos out of Israel in which Israelis were fighting each other tooth and nail. Uh, really bad. Because when you're applying violence against the natives, violence becomes normalized. And when the violence becomes normalized, you start applying to your own people. As simple as that. If that kid who beat you up, Mr. Elon Musk, when you were a kid, if that kid was black, who can blame him? If that kid was white, he was a product of a violent society, which was the result of your ancestors' wrong decision of moving to somebody else's land and expecting the natives to be overjoyed, to be ruled by white people, by people of another race. Either case, your childhood adversaries, your nemesis, your current nemesis, they're not really your nemesis. Here's the thing. One of the things that Zoroaster says in his writings, in his ideas, is that your enemy is not really your enemy. You think it's your enemy, and the example that they use is the example of the snake. If you go fuck with the snake and the snake bites you, that's your problem. The snake is not an enemy. A snake is an enemy of an enemy. If you're not an enemy of the snake will not bite you. You go your way, most of the time the snake goes its way. Unless, there is a misunderstanding, you step on the snake unknowingly, or, some misunderstanding. You didn't mean to, but you invaded the country anyway. But my point is this, that this guy says, supposedly, Mr. Zoroaster says, Your enemies are figments of your imagination. They're not real enemies. They're usually about going about their business, and somehow your life paths meet under adverse circumstances, and it's just your imagination which draws a line between somebody who's been beneficial to you and somebody who's potentially not beneficial to you. If the line is that obvious, that those who are beneficial to me are friends and those who are not beneficial to me are supposed enemies, then it's a very arbitrary thing, and you really shouldn't allow arbitrary matters to enter geopolitics. You shouldn't really allow your baggage, which your baggage is the result of your perception of who's the enemy and who's a friend. Your baggage is the result of your perceptions, and your perceptions comes about during your upbringing, through your history. If your family has decided to take your to start a family under adverse condition in South Africa, that doesn't make the natives of South Africa your nemesis. That doesn't make the natives of Asia your nemesis. That makes the people, your own ancestor, who committed to going down the wrong path anyway. Your ancestors knew that the right path is for the Germans hierarchy to open up land so everybody in Germany can own land. Your ancestors, the right thing for the fucking British is to open up all the land and let people own their own plot of land. But they don't do that. Let the British own some plot of land in England, but they don't do that. A few people own all the land, and the rest of Europeans have to be sent packing. That's your nemesis. Your own kind are your own worst enemies, who kicked your kind out of Europe. You were white, you were Christian, you were part of the European. Somehow they found a fault with you, whether you were Jewish or you were Baptist or you're a Baptist or you're a Protestant. The majority found the problem with you and kicked you out, or you decided go packing before they kill you. That's the problem. Not the problem is not the fucking natives in Asia or Africa. The problem is not the Palestinians or the South Africans. The problem is your wrong decision. If you have baggage from South Africa, the way they treated you, it's not their problem, it's your ancestors' problem for the thinking that, yes, I think we can go as a chimp. I think I can go to in a pack of gorillas and have a good time, be the ruling class, be the ruling economic and social class, political class. White people in South Africa were trying to be the ruling class, economic ruling class, social ruling class, and political ruling class of a black nation. And you thought the natives are going to treat you well? You think the natives in Asia are going to treat the Israelis who are from Europe well as a ruling class of a piece of land that everybody in that part of Asia holds sacred? Are you kidding me? The only way to do this is to put the whole of West Asia under martial law. And that's what is happening, is basically they're attacking each other. The whole of Asia is under martial law. Everybody is in underground, in their basement, in their bunkers, both sides, all around. Because persistent on continuing a very bad idea just because some rich people have decided that some rich people share a certain baggage, certain mental adversary from their childhood, and they got together, put a political action committee together, formed a pack, and pushed a certain policy through because and backed a certain politicians who, guess what, shared the same childhood baggage as them. No, I'm sorry. This is happening exactly what's happening in Israel is happening in North America. Rich people are pushing through politicians who share the same baggages, and this is a flawed system. And unfortunately, one gets to become the dear leader, and no, this is going to go bad. It went bad when they got together and did the same thing in Europe. Before World War One, before World War Two, sanity is different. Sanity is rich people don't get to decide, don't get to go after their old adversaries. Don't the rich people. We all have those adversaries. It's just not neither on the left nor on the right. Rich people should be called aside, like Jack Ma, and sent packing. Tell them that you can be a citizen. That's all you can be. You can't help elect a leader because you share the same baggage. You can't help, you know, you can't intervene in the media or social media by owning the social media. Here's the thing with Twitter. Every tweet I make, maybe 5 people see it. Every tweet I send out, I I have been kept by the system. I have been kept at 700 followers, 800 followers, somewhere around there. But 5 people, literally, some of my tweets are seen by one, some of my tweets are seen by like 5. No more than that. Maybe it rarely goes into double digits. And this is the same Twitter that Elon Musk famously, in the first days that he bought Twitter, he got into such a conflict with his staff that he was in conflict with his staff that he got pissed off of them, that why doesn't every one of his followers see his tweet? Why doesn't every one of his followers see every one of his tweets? So he basically was saying that you have to do the algorithm in a way that every one of my followers and then some, everyone on Twitter sees every one of my tweets. Of course, this is the algorithm. And then my tweets are seen by like 5 people. Probably he's one of them, one of the 5. But no one else. So this is the problem with rich people. They they see themselves as gods because they're worshipped by so many people, most of them their own employees, but a lot of them by their own employees, or a minority of them by their own employees. But then the word gets around. They start getting worshipped by more. But again, let me remind you, Jesus died with only 12 followers. You see, and especially if you get a lot of followers, that's the first sign that you're talking nonsense. You're being a populist. You're airing your baggage, and everybody who wants a paycheck from you, wants money from you, wants a attaboy from you, comes kissing your ass. Nobody was kissing Jesus' ass. Nobody. 12. And they weren't even kissing. One of them went and sold him out. So 11 was kissing his ass. So my point is this, that if because you have a lot of followers and a lot of people kiss your ass, that doesn't mean you're right. Mr. George Soros, Mr. Elon Musk, Mr. Mark Cuban, Mr. Jeff Bezos, Mr. Warren Buffett. Just because a lot of people follow you or are willing to kiss your ass all the time doesn't mean you're right. It just means you've been a good linguist, you learned the la- computer language, and you made a lot of money through it. It doesn't mean you're a geopolitical genius. It doesn't mean you're a sane person. It doesn't mean you're some kind of messiah. It doesn't mean your baggage should be my baggage. It doesn't mean your childhood adversaries and nemesis should be my childhood adversaries and nemesis. It doesn't mean killing natives in West Asia is a good idea. Just saying. Yeah, I think Chinese system is much better theoretically. Or and practically, I see you can see how China has developed during a short period of time. And their first order of day was to kick out the European in order to develop. Because as long as the Europeans are there, they don't want anybody to develop. Europeans have been in Egypt for 75 years now. Since the creation of Israel, Egypt has been dependent on Europeans and and white people. Handout. Has Egypt developed? Saudi Arabia. Has Saudi Arabia developed? Yeah, go watch. Tom Hanks has a movie about the illusion and the delusion in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, Tom Hanks has a movie about that. Please go see it. That's a good one too. Illusion and delusion of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is another defeated land by white people. Has it got anywhere? It's sort of like by first you have to excuse white people from Europe and North America, and hopefully then you can develop. Because as long as the white people are there, apparently you don't have any chance as a native of those lands. They keep killing you. They want the land. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is not the same thing to do. All these people. If you ask me, I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm being a little. I'm joking here, but re-education camps. Imagine, you know, a bunch of these rich people are sent instead of allowing them to choose the candidates in an election. Imagine these people being sent to a re-education camp to educate them that you're a fucking citizen. You're wealthy, but you're still only a citizen. You're not a messiah. Your baggage is not the correct baggage. Those enemies who are the figments of your imagination are not real enemies. They're snakes. The snake is not your enemy unless you become its enemy. You don't need to make any. Nobody is born your enemy. You don't need to have enemies. You don't need to make enemies. If you were in the wrong place at the wrong time and you got the sharp end of the stick up your ass, I'm sorry, but it was your ancestors' decision to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. That being non-natives moving into people who've been there for much longer period of time. I think the Jack Ma procedure is much better, both for the left and the right. It's just much better. Only the very very well respected intellectuals, a group of well respected intellectuals should be in charge of executive branch. Just like, in the judicial branch, you go out of your way to make sure you get a well represented group of intellectuals to be in charge of the legislature. Of course, beside these last ones who, used to boof beer. But beside that, previous ones, the idea was, let's, pick the most intellectual people that we can find, wiser people, well-rounded people, neither cold nor hot people. The same way you should choose your executive group, a group of executives. Money should have no say in politics, zero say. Because people with money, they start believing they are messiahs. They start picking politicians who agree, who have the same baggage, who agree with their positions. Rich people are not messiahs. Their positions are not right. They were at the right place at the right time, made a few bucks. It doesn't make them Jesus Christ.